Today we are talking about what Black men bring to the table.
I feel like we have been the table. I feel like men are the table and women are the ones that decorate that table. You know what I mean? So it's always been find a man that's gonna take care of you, find a man that's going to protect you. And that's been something historically that we've done throughout all cultures.
You have to be mental, spiritual, intellectual as well. You have to, on top of the financial, being able to take care of her and provide for her as a man.
Women can't really ask that question, you know what I mean? Because the ratio says that I get to dictate the terms of the market. You know what I mean? So like, you can ask me what I bring to the table, but if I don't like your attitude, I could like swap you out for a new improved version.
You have to be more than just a provider and protector, because those are just actionable things. I think a lot of women are realizing, oh, I can provide provisions for myself and I can learn how to protect myself. So why do I need a man?
You know what I mean? You have a lot of women that don't have uncles, they don't have grandfathers, they don't have fathers, they don't have somebody who's going to give them the uncut, raw, and real about relationships. And I think that Kevin Samuels noticed that lane and he hopped in it.
After watching so many of his videos, I think he is very, very necessary, because me personally, I feel like we have always heard the conversation of how men are dogs. Men ain't this. Men need to do this. Men need to do better. And not to say that they don't, but we have always heard it. How many times have we heard from the other side, women need to do this, women need to do that?
And if we're striving to get to a place that's reflective of successful relationships, not somebody on the internet who's talking shit who's twice divorced, but successful relationships. We have Doug and we have Rich who are talking about balance. Shouldn't we be listening to married Black men about what success looks like?
He's a shock jock. We watch him for the same reason that we listen to Star and Buck Wild and all that, right? Like, he has these viral moments because he's ridiculous.
How is it that somebody like Iyanla Vanzant been divorced 2 times, but we still trust her advice? Oprah ain't never been married, but we still trust her advice. We got plenty of Black women that have not always shown up perfect in ideal situations, but we still Maya Angelou, she ain't always shown up in the best position as a wife or as a mother or anything like that. Nina Simone, another example.
All right, hold on.
Hi guys, so I just wanted to come and touch on this video that I saw posted at the Grapevine. They are now holding their conversations and their panel discussions over on Patreon, but they will come and post their promotional video regarding the topic that they're going to speak on. And so the men of the Grapevine decided to talk about the topic of what do Black men bring to the table. Now, in the past few weeks, this has been a conversation of a lot of YouTubers here on YouTube. I saw the titles of, people talking about what do women bring to the table. And to my understanding, all of this started over Kevin Samuels, and we all know he's a bitter troll who is trying to promote divide between Black men and women. And he's masking that as saying that he's giving advice to well-to-do Black men who are making a certain income, who are looking for a wife, right? First of all, he came to YouTube selling cologne. And then he moved into this whole thing of giving relationship advice. And I believe on one of his other pages, and I made a video about this. If I could pull those videos up out of my cloud, I will, and post them somewhere. I'm gonna get around to some of this stuff eventually. But he had stated in the on this website, one of his own websites for his styling company, that he and really admired the character from the movie Hitch, which is the movie that Will Smith was in when he was dating. He was helping the guy with dating, if you guys remember that, giving him advice. And so that is who he came to YouTube. He decided to take his channel in that direction and pattern himself after that character, which, if you can remember, Will Smith was kind of harsh in how he said things to the guy, right? He just kind of said it how he meant it. And so I think that's what he started off doing. And then, he went viral for, of course, saying what he said to that young woman. And that was all she wrote. He now has to keep up this pattern of talking to Black women in a particular manner, which he was already in his mind wanting to, I feel, divide, our community in that way of making Black men feel that there's something that Black women are lacking or missing to offer them, and vice versa, by creating mistrust among Black women towards Black men, or feeling that we can't trust them, in some way by doing this and having them have these conversations. So that's just my take on Kevin Samuels, and I've been saying this for a very long time. And I think now he's generating a certain amount of money, he's don't care what people think, and he's going to start telling you guys who he truly is, which is funny to me. And I'm sitting over here, completely tickled by all of that because I kind of felt like that, and I believe I said that too in one of my older videos. But he was, of course, instrumental in helping taking my channel down by putting strikes on my page. So, I said that at some point he probably would tell the truth about who he is, because to me it's pretty obvious. His sexuality and stuff is pretty obvious, and no, it shouldn't have anything to do when you're having an honest discussion about relationships. But we're not going to sit here and pretend like a relationship between two people of the same sex is the same as two people of opposite. It is not the same, and I've had many conversations with gay people myself, and we've had that discussion, so I know what I'm saying. So whatever, it's not about just pointing out that he is. It's about the fact that he's pretending that he truly has a concern for these men in that way when he never had that concern. His whole point always was to compete with women and to make women come off a certain way, in particular black women, because he's clearly after a black man. And I said what I said on that. But, back to the Grapevines conversation from, I guess, a Kevin Samuels video where he was trying to tell some women, of course, a black woman, that she doesn't bring anything to the table, that women don't bring anything to the table. We somehow should feel, that we're at the mercy of men, right? Right. And that's if you want to be married. Which is nonsense, and we all know that life it just don't always work like that. People have they create these stereotypical notions in their head, and then they run all over the place with them like they're saying something. And he does that a lot with a lot of the stuff that he says over there. And like I always try to say in my videos, I hope people understand, especially young people, young minds, that all of this stuff is entertainment. It speaks not to real life ever. It's very rare. And I understand that we see the images of, black entertainers and people in the sports world and how they marry. And at this point, stuff like that is something, it's kind of like a pressured situation where they see everyone else doing it, they have to do it too. And we see that all the way across the board in the entertainment industry. Everyone's doing what they see other people like them doing. And they feel obligated to do that, right? No one can think for themselves or stand on their own 2 feet, in particular black men. And so I wish men would have conversations about that, about just, you guys want to be individuals, you want to walk as an island or talk as an island, but then you at the same time, you're scared to truly stand as one. There's a conversation. But in this conversation, the promo video, they are also bringing up that black women have been, one of the guys was saying that giving this type of advice, Oprah was never married. Oprah has been in a long-term relationship, and we really honestly don't know if she is married to Stedman or not. They definitely have the money to go wherever and get married, and people here in the States will never know. Like, let's keep it real about that. So we don't know what her true status on paper is with Stedman, but she is still with him, and they've been together for over 30 plus years. And so I think that gives her the right to speak on relationships. Sorry. To be honest, I really don't think that I've ever heard Oprah do that, try to give anybody else advice on their relationship. Oftentimes she will have experts on her show when she had the Oprah show. And so I don't ever recall her just giving people relationship advice. I think that's misleading. And naming all of the other women as well. Ayala Van Zandt is a life coach. She's someone that people lean on for advice, and her wisdom. Regardless if she's been perfect in relationships or not. And no one is saying that Kevin Samuels cannot raise conversations about relationships, but you should not have to demean and degrade anyone to make a point. And for people that pretend like they don't get that, have self-esteem issues. Let's call that what it is. You have a self-esteem issue if you need to sit and watch someone be belittle or degrade anyone to get a point across. So I think that it's misleading what the guy was saying, trying to point out black women, who have who women or men, as both will lean on and for their wisdom. I don't think that people are necessarily going to Ayala Van Zandt for relationship advice. They're going to her for spiritual guidance and for advice on things that they're dealing with within themselves. Now, if that is affecting their relationship, she will speak to that. So let's keep that in context to say that when that's not necessarily what Ayala Van Zandt stood for or was doing with her show. And I think Maya Angelou lived a long time. I think she was 90 years old when she passed away. She certainly has wisdom. She certainly has knowledge that people can lean on. And she wasn't someone who walked through life doing a bunch of fool ass stuff that people should feel like, oh, I can't take advice from her. Okay, and Nina Simone as well. I don't recall Nina Simone ever giving anyone relationship advice. On top of the fact she was married to a Caucasian man and didn't even live in his country half the time. So I don't know why they're throwing her name out there. I think she was a strong black woman with who kind of spoke how she meant it, and that's why the guy had decided to use her name. But and even with that said, there have been black men who should not have been out here giving advice on relationships as well. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to point Steve Harvey out as one of those people because he was married several times. So it's not like he was married to the same woman for 20 plus years and wrote that book. He was married several times with several different women. And even as he was putting that book out, he was in a marriage where the woman was lodging certain type of claims against him. Like, I mean, I'm not going to get off into that. I'm talking about the last wife. So, cut it out. Let's not act like men don't get out here and start acting like they know it all and they have so much to say, so much wisdom to pass on to someone in a relationship, because we've seen men do that as well. And half of them have not been married to anyone. I don't know. I just think that I feel like the guy is definitely trying to defend Kevin Samuels in some way by trying to point the finger to high profile black women, who, like I said, you can't really say that they're even giving relationship advice because I personally have never heard them degrade or belittle black men uh, to make a point. So it's still no comparison, regardless if those women have been in successful marriages or not. Um, I keep saying I'm going to create one of my new pages and I'm going to give, relationship advice to the LGBTQIA community. I feel like, everybody could just tell everybody how to hook up with people. Why not? And as far as bringing to the table that whole conversation, I personally don't subscribe to a lot of the stuff. I think that life is more complex than what people care to admit. Um, you know, Sometimes people have a list of things that they're looking for, and they may end up with two or three of those things on that list. And that's men and women. At the end of the day, and there are women who are going to carry families, and there are going to be men that are going to carry families. So I just think that that's just a silly way of trying to make yourself feel important by saying that women need to bow down to you because you're paying the bills and you're doing this, that, and the other. And that's your decision. If you choose to marry someone and share, the load with them, then you should speak up and say that. That's the way you should look for women. If you choose to take care of a woman and you want her to be a housewife, stay home and raise your kids, then you're going to say that when you meet someone, and that's what you're out here looking for. You're not going to go and try to turn a CEO of a company into a housewife unless she's telling you that's what she's ready to do. So you guys get what I'm saying. So I don't really subscribe to this whole bringing to the table nonsense, and that's kind of why I never got into that whole conversation. And I also don't subscribe to all that stuff that Kevin Samuels is saying either. And I've said that time and time again. So I really don't have any conversation for to bring anybody to the table stuff or brings whatever to the table. because I just don't believe in that. But let me know what you guys think in the comments about what you've heard so far from the guys. And you can catch the Grapevine over on Patreon if you would like to watch their entire conversation. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
I know this guy named Kevin Samuels on the internet. He's blowing up right now, and he's having these conversations about high value men and high value women. And I said, excuse my language, family. I said, how the hell are we talking about we high value people and we don't control nothing? We don't have, wealth. We don't own and control wealth building resources. We don't have any power. We online arguing with each other over who's high value and who's not. And none of us control anything. So I thought the conversation was asinine, we talk brothers and sisters, well, I make $100,000 a year, and I make this, and I said, what are we arguing over about?